But the active gang members in MS-13 we meet next door, like Marvin, aren't exactly looking to make amends for their past.
Welcome to the hidden world of El Salvador's elusive gang politics and violence in 2023. Like shadows in the night, these cunning individuals have mastered the art of evasion, vanishing into a labyrinth of secret hideouts and safe havens. Join us as we unravel the cloak and dagger tactics they employ to escape capture, revealing a gripping tale of survival and intrigue in the heart of Central America. In the aftermath of the El Salvador Civil War, peace accords were signed in the year 1992, but they were not designed to create a lasting, peaceful society. Instead, these agreements were political in nature, meant to bring an end to the conflict with the guerrillas and allow them to participate in a representative system. However, there was a crucial missing element in these accords. There was no economic agreement of reconciliation to uplift the impoverished majority, nor was there a focus on social restructuring or support for victims. The situation took a dangerous turn when the United States started deporting young men with criminal records involved in gangs back to El Salvador in 1989. This drastic step was like mixing two volatile ingredients. El Salvador had just emerged from 12 years of violent turmoil, dealing with the aftermath of the war, and was still grappling with issues like poverty and orphaned children. The state was ill-prepared to handle the influx of these deported individuals who had learned gang organization skills in Southern California, the world capital of Latino gangs. The El Salvadorian authorities had no idea that the influx of these criminally educated people will change the fate of their country. Initially, there were 4,000 deportees, but over time, they multiplied into a staggering 60,000 gang members, spreading across all 14 states of El Salvador. The government's approach to dealing with the problem fluctuated between repression and appeasement, but neither strategy proved effective in curbing gang violence. In fact, the hardline measures taken only exacerbated the issue, leading to a surge in homicides and the rapid growth of the gang population. By 2009, El Salvador had gained the unfortunate title of having the highest murder rate in the world, with almost 71 homicides per 100,000 people. The situation in El Salvador became so dire that the country was often referred to as the murder capital of the world. The prevalence of gang violence became a significant factor contributing to the region's migration crisis, as many people sought to escape the dangerous and unstable conditions to start a new life in peaceful countries. As of 2011, the country faced the staggering reality of approximately 25,000 gang members roaming freely, while another 43,500 languished behind prison bars. These notorious groups, known as Maras in colloquial Salvadoran Spanish, were being led by Mara Salvatrucha, MS-13, and their arch-rivals, 18th Street. Their dominance, however, came at a cost. They have been hunted relentlessly by demise squads like Sombra Negra, while newer contenders like the Rebels 13 further fueled the flames of violence. In this shadow of dread, the lives of at least 60,000 young Salvadorans were trapped in the clutches of these criminal youth gangs. El Salvador's predicament mirrors a tragic trio, as it forms a part of the northern triangle of Central America, along with Guatemala and Honduras. These countries, plagued by staggering levels of violence, have become synonymous with the menace of gang activities. However, amidst the grim reality, there was a glimmer of hope in 2012 when El Salvador experienced a remarkable 41% decline in crime compared to the previous year. The Salvadoran government attributed this to a gang truce that was in effect. Daily killings dropped significantly, and on one extraordinary day in April 2012, the country bore witness to no homicides at all, a rare respite after 3 long years of bloodshed. Nonetheless, this truce proved fleeting, and the gang-related homicide rate surged once more after it finally ended in 2014. As the violent El Salvadorian gangs clasped the tendrils of power, they venture beyond illegal substance trafficking to exploit human trafficking as an alternative source of profit. Among the many gangs vying for control, Mara 18 and MS-13 reigned as the strongest and most influential. Born in the ganglands of Los Angeles, California, Mara 18, also known as 18th Street, has propagated its influence into the streets of San Salvador, where it stands toe-to-toe with its fierce rival, Mara Salvatrucha. The presence of these gangs perpetuated a climate of pervasive violence in El Salvador. Their criminal activities ranged from homicides to extortion, wreaking havoc and instilling fear within society. A tapestry of violence had emerged, encompassing political, gender, and structural dimensions, with women and children bearing the brunt of brutality, enduring torture and abuse. But why do young Salvadoran men decide to join these gangs? The reasons are multifaceted. It is not just a simple choice, but a desperate response to the circumstances they face. In a society marked by neglect and violence, these young souls find themselves drawn into the embrace of gangs, seeking belonging, respect, and economic opportunities that elude them elsewhere. Salvadoran youth are exposed to a myriad of risk factors that push them toward gang membership, and in turn crime. Poverty, family disintegration, neglect, violence at home, unemployment, and lack of educational opportunities. All these factors contribute to a sense of hopelessness and alienation. Consequently, they are driven to seek solace and a sense of purpose within gangs. The quest for familial ties, social status, and economic prospects lures them into this dangerous world where violence becomes a currency of respect on the unforgiving streets. This struggle for identity and recognition is particularly pronounced among those who grew up in Los Angeles as war refugees and were later deported to El Salvador. For them, gangs like Mara Salvatrucha and Barrio 18 provide a familiar community and protection. Yet these gangs demand loyalty through brutal initiation rituals, such as committing crimes like murder, theft, or other acts of violence. Female recruits, in particular, endure horrific ordeals, facing assault or group beatings as part of their initiation. This grim reality underscores the pervasive violence that taints these gangs' existence. While gang membership remains male-dominated, young women in El Salvador also find themselves entangled in this perilous world. They too undergo brutal initiations and are sometimes forced into criminal activities like smuggling illegal substances, gathering intelligence, or carrying weapons. Gangs view women as less suspicious in the eyes of authorities, exploiting this perception to further their criminal enterprises. The consequences of gang involvement are not confined to El Salvador's borders. They spill over into the United States as well. Fearing gang violence, many young people flee El Salvador as unaccompanied minors, seeking refuge across the border. The breakdown of the gang peace agreement in 2012 has drastically escalated the number of unaccompanied alien children, UACs, encountered in the U.S., painting a picture of desperation and fear. Separation from families during this journey becomes a devastating experience for these refugee children, highlighting the crucial role of the family in safeguarding the well-being of its members. The issue of Salvadoran youths joining gangs is not confined to a single community or nation. It is a multidimensional problem that demands attention and understanding from societies worldwide. To address this crisis effectively, we must acknowledge that gang membership is not merely a choice, but often a response to dire circumstances. It arises from a yearning for belonging, respect, and opportunities that remain elusive in their lives. Breaking the cycle of violence and gang involvement requires a collective effort. Governments, NGOs, and communities must invest in programs that tackle the root causes of gang attraction, such as poverty, lack of education, and absence of family support. Creating safer neighborhoods, providing counseling services, and offering job opportunities can help redirect the energies of vulnerable youth towards positive paths. El Salvador's struggles do not remain confined within its borders. Gangs like MS-13 and Mara 18 maintain exceptional relationships with illegal substance traffickers, leading to the formation of international syndicates. As the narcotics trafficking trade flourishes, these gangs vie for control over territories, further entangling themselves in the web of transnational criminal networks. Shockingly, even the United States is home to a significant number of MS-13 members partaking in narcotics trafficking, weapon use, and violent gang activities. In El Salvador, a nation striving for peace, the government has unfurled its banners of hope through various programs aimed at guiding the youth away from the clutches of gang membership. Amidst the challenges that have plagued the communities, tales of resilience and change echo through the ages. Once, La Mano Dura stood tall, a symbol of zero tolerance, flowing into this land from Los Angeles, determined to quell the rising tide of gang activity. Yet, as the nation evolved, it was realized that harsh retribution alone could not sow the seeds of transformation. It put young souls behind bars, merely for bearing tattoos or flashing signs of affiliation, but their hearts yearned for something more compassionate, more enduring. From the ashes of the past, Super Mano Dura emerged, but even its mighty grasp faced criticism from the global stage. While it saw a fleeting moment of triumph, the true path to change remained elusive, and El Salvador bore the weight of sorrow with homicide rates soaring to staggering heights. In the quest for redemption, the indomitable spirit of Mayor Norman Quijano blazed a trail of hope, fostering safety and trust in the hearts of our most troubled districts. Armed with safety campaigns and vibrant activities, El Salvadorian authorities shielded their youth from the allure of the gangs. The watchful eyes of security cameras brought a new dawn of vigilance, for they understood that nurturing young minds was the key to lasting peace. President Nayib Bukele, a visionary of his time, dared to lock down prisons harboring gang members, driven by a desire to protect this land from the torrents of violence. Yet, amid these measures, the importance of treating all with dignity and compassion was recognized, even those behind bars. The country's pursuit of justice must not endanger their well-being, even during times of trial and tribulation. A beacon of hope flickered in the form of a gang truce, where rivals MS-13 and Barrio 18 set aside their enmity in search of common ground. Skepticism and criticism shadowed this daring initiative, but it bore fruit, witnessing a remarkable drop in daily deaths, sparking a glimmer of optimism in the hearts of locals. In a dramatic and unprecedented move on the 27th of March, the Salvadoran Legislative Assembly approved a state of exception that would change the course of the nation's history. This extraordinary order was initially meant to last for just 30 days, but it was repeatedly extended 14 times. The controversial order suspended fundamental rights, including association and legal counsel, while granting the government sweeping surveillance powers over citizens' communications without warrants. Yet these measures drew sharp criticism as Salvadoran law enforcement, even under these expanded powers, faced accusations of violating human rights. The government's clampdown further restricted the judiciary's ability to offer alternatives to pre-trial detention, such as bail or house arrest, leading to an outcry from civil liberties advocates. The ruling party, Nuevas Ideas, demonstrated their resolve to tackle crime by passing stringent legislation. They increased prison sentences for convicted gang lords to 40 to 45 years and raised the age of criminal responsibility to just 12 years old, a significant reduction from 16. The government also passed a law threatening severe penalties for anyone reproducing or disseminating gang-related messages, including news media. As the government intensified its efforts, the nation witnessed an extraordinary show of force. Additional police and military personnel were deployed, raiding houses and setting up checkpoints around neighborhoods known to have gang activities. The soldiers conducted thorough checks on everyone, demanding identification and proof of address, and conducted invasive searches of vehicles and backpacks. Those deemed suspicious were subjected to degrading searches for gang-related tattoos. The scale of arrests during this time was staggering. Within a week, almost 6,000 people were detained, straining an already overcrowded prison system. In response, the government set arrest quotas, pressuring law enforcement and the judicial system to maintain mass arrests. After a month, more than 17,000 people were arrested, leading to questions about due process and transparency. This also raised alarm in the world, with activists and human rights advocates criticizing the dehumanizing legislation. The administration, under President Bukele, exhibited an unwavering determination to tackle gang-related issues. A massive new prison, the Terrorism Confinement Center, was constructed in Tecoluca for this purpose. This facility was capable of housing 40,000 prisoners, making it one of the largest in the world. This move showcased the government's commitment to its tough-on-crime stance. In November 2022, the government decided to destroy the gravestones of gang members to prevent them from becoming shrines. President Bukele likened this action to denazification in Allied-occupied Germany, asserting that it was meant to prevent the glorification of criminals. The government clarified that the bodies would not be disturbed during this process. The El Salvadorian government's relentless pursuit of gang members escalated when it initiated a siege of the city of Soyapango in December 2022. Sending around 10,000 soldiers to encircle the city and arrest gang members, the authorities also wiped out gang graffiti during the siege, aiming to reassert control. Despite opposition from some political parties, the Legislative Assembly repeatedly extended the state of exception. Nuevas Ideas, the Grand Alliance for National Unity, the Christian Representative Party, the National Coalition Party, and 3 independent politicians consistently voted in favor of the extensions. In contrast, the Nationalist Republican Alliance, the Farabundo Martí National Liberation Front, Nuestro Tiempo, and Vamos consistently opposed it. But gangs in this region have mastered the art of evading capture, devising an intricate web of tactics to stay one step ahead of the law. With every step they take, they dance on the edge of darkness, employing ingenious strategies to elude the grasping hands of justice. At the epicenter of their cunning lies the utilization of safe houses, enigmatic havens concealed from prying eyes. These elusive locations provide sanctuary for gang members and facilitate their nefarious activities. Constantly changing these hideouts confounds the efforts of law enforcement as they struggle to pinpoint their whereabouts and disrupt their malevolent operations. Like a spectral web spanning the urban landscape, informant networks keep a vigil over the movements of law enforcement. Operating in the shadows, these covert webs allow the gangs to predict police activities and potential threats, empowering them to act with precision and finesse. In this deadly dance of cat and mouse, the gangs remain elusive, vanishing into the dark abyss when the law enforcement authorities come knocking. Intimidation and violence reverberate through the heart of El Salvador's gangland, echoing the chilling message that silence is the key to survival. Witnesses are silenced through fear, and potential informants cower in the shadows, avoiding any collaboration with the authorities. This reign of terror ensures that gang secrets remain guarded, and the pursuit of justice becomes a perilous journey. Another way the gang members manage to avoid being arrested is by bribing officials. An insidious alliance that can turn the wheels of justice to a grinding halt. In a corrupted dance of temptation, some gangs may infiltrate the ranks of law enforcement, greasing the palms of those sworn to protect and serve. The result is a betrayal of trust and the conversion of justice into a manipulated mirage. In the labyrinth of criminal coalitions, cryptic communication reigns supreme. The gang members communicate in coded language and encrypted messages, rendering their conversations indecipherable to outsiders. The walls of secrecy they erect deflect the prying eyes of authorities, leaving them groping in the dark. Adaptability is the essence of their survival. As the tide shifts, the gangs display operational flexibility, effortlessly morphing their criminal enterprises to evade the grasp of the law. Like chameleons, they change territories and criminal activities with such agility that it becomes a Herculean task for law enforcement to keep pace. Gangs also tend to learn from the past, avoiding known patterns like expert chess players. Observing police tactics and patterns, they tactically evade areas with heightened police presence, striking when the watchful eyes momentarily blink. This intricate chess match between the gangs and law enforcement adds an air of unpredictability to the battle for control, and oftentimes, the innocent citizens become collateral damage in this tug-of-war. Exploiting social media has emerged as a new battleground in this digital age. Cunningly harnessing the power of the virtual world, the gangs glean intelligence on law enforcement activities and employ misinformation to divert attention. Like digital puppeteers, they manipulate social media platforms to their advantage, deceiving and confusing the authorities. In order to endure the relentless pursuit, gangs employ a stratagem of splitting leadership. Their hierarchical structure fractures into multiple layers, minimizing the damage of arrests and ensuring that their criminal machinery remains functional even if law enforcement manages to bring down or arrest certain members or even leaders. This division of power poses a formidable challenge for law enforcement, impeding their attempts to dismantle these nefarious organizations. The specter of international connections looms large, offering an escape route for fleeing gang members. They cross borders, seek refuge in neighboring countries, or venture far and wide in search of havens beyond the reach of justice. This global network provides a safe haven for fugitives, perpetuating the cycle of crime. The gangs in El Salvador have honed their craft, mastering the art of evasion and survival, utilizing safe houses, informant networks, intimidation, bribery, cryptic communication, operational flexibility, evasion of known patterns, social media, splitting leadership, and international connections. They have woven a complex tapestry of deception, keeping the forces of justice at bay. The emergency measures, implemented in response to a surge in violence, have reportedly led to a significant drop in homicides, a statistic the government proudly touts as proof of its success. However, this victory comes at a heavy cost, as human rights groups and the United Nations raise serious concerns about reported misuse and the suspension of civil liberties. El Salvador's legislature, with 67 votes in favor out of 84, approved the 10th extension of the state of emergency, which remained in effect from January 17th to February 15th. The aim was to combat criminal gangs, particularly Mara Salvatrucha, MS-13, and Barrio 18, which together have an estimated 70,000 members. These groups have long been a thorn in the nation's side, controlling around 80% of the country. The government argued that the state of emergency was essential for re-establishing order, citizen security, and territorial control. President Bukele and his supporters insisted that it was a necessary measure to protect the people and bring back stability. According to the government, the emergency measures have been successful, with a staggering 56.8% drop in homicides in 2022 compared to the previous year, resulting in 496 homicides instead of 1,147. However, this purported success is overshadowed by the dark side of the state of emergency. Human rights organizations, including Human Rights Watch, have documented serious abuse by security forces, ranging from arbitrary arrests and enforced disappearances to torture and other ill treatment. Reports suggest that many of the arrests were based on appearance or social background rather than solid proof of criminal involvement. This has led to the detention of hundreds of people with no actual ties to criminal gangs, raising grave concerns about the suspension of civil liberties. The emergency law passed in 2022 suspends fundamental rights such as freedom of association and assembly, privacy in communications, and certain due process protections. Critics argue that this broad suspension opens the door to misuse and puts the rights of Salvadorans at risk. During the state of emergency, detainees have reportedly faced severe restrictions on their movement, being locked up 24/7 and having their food and basic necessities rationed. This approach could be seen as a form of collective punishment and may constitute cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment, which is prohibited under international human rights law. The conditions in prisons have also deteriorated, with detainees receiving only 2 meager meals a day consisting of beans and tortillas. Welcome to the hidden world of El Salvador's elusive gang politics and violence in 2023. Like shadows in the night, these cunning individuals have mastered the art of evasion, vanishing into a labyrinth of secret hideouts and safe havens. Join us as we unravel the cloak and dagger tactics they employ to escape capture, revealing a gripping tale of survival and intrigue in the heart of Central America. In the aftermath of the El Salvador Civil War, peace accords were signed in the year 1992, but they were not designed to create a lasting peaceful society. Instead, these agreements were political in nature, meant to bring an end to the conflict with the guerrillas and allow them to participate in a representative system. However, there was a crucial missing element in these accords. There was no economic agreement of reconciliation to uplift the impoverished majority, nor was there a focus on social restructuring or support for victims. The situation took a dangerous turn when the United States started deporting young men with criminal records involved in gangs back to El Salvador in 1989. This drastic step was like mixing 2 volatile ingredients. El Salvador had just emerged from 12 years of violent turmoil, dealing with the aftermath of the war, and was still grappling with issues like poverty and orphaned children. The state was ill-prepared to handle the influx of these deported individuals who had learned gang organization skills in Southern California, the world capital of Latino gangs. The El Salvadorian authorities had no idea that the influx of these criminally educated people will change the fate of their country. Initially, there were 4,000 deportees, but over time they multiplied into a staggering 60,000 gang members, spreading across all 14 states of El Salvador. The government's approach to dealing with the problem fluctuated between repression and appeasement, but neither strategy proved effective in curbing gang violence. In fact, the hard-line measures taken only exacerbated the issue, leading to a surge in homicides and the rapid growth of the gang population. By 2009, El Salvador had gained the unfortunate title of having the highest murder rate in the world, with almost 71 homicides per 100,000 people. The situation in El Salvador became so dire that the country was often referred to as the murder capital of the world. The prevalence of gang violence became a significant factor contributing to the region's migration crisis, as many people sought to escape the dangerous and unstable conditions to start a new life in peaceful countries. As of 2011, the country faced the staggering reality of approximately 25,000 gang members roaming freely, while another 43,500 languished behind prison bars. These notorious groups, known as Maras in colloquial Salvadoran Spanish, were being led by Mara Salvatrucha, MS-13, and their arch-rivals, 18th Street. Their dominance, however, came at a cost. They have been hunted relentlessly by demise squads like Sombra Negra, while newer contenders like the Rebels 13 further fueled the flames of violence. In this shadow of dread, the lives of at least 60,000 young Salvadorans were trapped in the clutches of these criminal youth gangs. El Salvador's predicament mirrors a tragic trio, as it forms a part of the northern triangle of Central America, along with Guatemala and Honduras. These countries, plagued by staggering levels of violence, have become synonymous with the menace of gang activities. However, amidst the grim reality, there was a glimmer of hope in 2012 when El Salvador experienced a remarkable 41% decline in crime compared to the previous year. The Salvadoran government attributed this to a gang truce that was in effect. Daily killings dropped significantly, and on one extraordinary day in April 2012, the country bore witness to no homicides at all, a rare respite after 3 long years of bloodshed. Nonetheless, this truce proved fleeting, and the gang-related homicide rate surged once more after it finally ended in 2014. The justification provided by the government for this move, diverting funds from education to deny terrorists better treatment. This raises further concerns about the fairness and legality of the actions taken. Additionally, prisoners have been denied basic necessities such as mattresses and have been forced to remain confined to their cells at all times, exacerbating their already harsh living conditions. International law sets out clear guidelines to protect the rights and dignity of detainees, regardless of the circumstances. If these reported actions are accurate, they might be subject to scrutiny and criticism from human rights organizations and the international community. Additionally, concerns have been raised about the lack of independent institutions in El Salvador that can check executive power. The pro-Bukele majority in the Legislative Assembly has reportedly taken measures to pack the Supreme Court and replace the Attorney General with Bukele's ally, further eroding checks and balances. The spike in gang violence is part of a complex history. El Faro, a media outlet, reported that the government negotiated with gangs in the past, granting prison privileges in exchange for a commitment to lower the homicide rate and support the president's political party in voting. The U.S. government laid a charge against the Bukele administration for engaging in covert negotiations with MS-13, leading to sanctions against Salvadoran officials. International law allows countries to temporarily suspend some human rights obligations in limited and extreme circumstances. However, it is crucial to ensure that such measures are strictly required during an emergency and do not violate peremptory norms of international law or fundamental fair trial principles. While the drop in homicide rate may seem like a significant victory for President Nayib Bukele's administration, it comes at a high cost. The state of emergency has raised concerns about misuse of power, arbitrary arrests, and the suspension of civil liberties. El Salvador faces a delicate balancing act between combating gang violence and respecting human rights. As the situation unfolds, the world watches to see how this controversial approach will impact the country and its people in the long run. The government's crackdown on criminal gangs was not only met with resounding applause by the local population, but it soared on the wings of people's support. A staggering 91% of Salvadorans rallied behind this audacious initiative, with 78% unwaveringly declaring their ardent endorsement. Wearied by the shackles of violence, the people had had enough. They longed for freedom and security. The metamorphosis began to weave its magic throughout the streets, imbuing the air with a newfound sense of safety. With exuberance in their hearts, citizens found the courage to tread paths once deemed unimaginable. Noted author Ioan Grillo observed the vanishing act of notorious gang members from the bustling centers, replaced by an atmosphere where fear no longer clutched at the people's hearts. In a world of hope, the citizens no longer lived in the shadows, but in the vibrant light of their liberated neighborhoods. The winds of change blew fiercely, garnering admiration from afar. Even those who had sought refuge in the United States added their voices to the chorus of support for the crackdown. Salvadoran Archbishop José Luis Escobar Alas, a beacon of moral guidance, publicly lent his blessing to the audacious move, acknowledging the necessity of taking the reins of control back from the gangs. The metamorphosis wasn't without its share of challenges. Innocent souls ensnared in the crackdown raised valid concerns as they found themselves unwittingly seized in the crossfire. Voices rose to the surface, advocating for fairness and justice. The victims of the regime movement became a symbol of resilience, demanding that every life seized in the storm of change be treated with dignity and given a chance to reclaim their innocence. Yet, amidst the tempest, rays of hope pierced through the darkest clouds. Officials with unwavering determination promised to uncover the truth, ensuring that justice prevailed. While some doubted this, many who were falsely detained found freedom once more, embraced by the loving arms of a nation determined to right its wrongs. The tides of progress surged forth, likened to the power of life-saving chemotherapy eradicating cancerous forces. Forging ahead, the nation embarked on a journey to reclaim its future, cleansing itself of the nefarious grip that once held it captive. In every corner of El Salvador, stories of transformation echoed, sung by those who had once lived in fear. Vendors, shop owners, drivers, and pedestrians rejoiced as the specter of extortion faded into oblivion. A symphony of hope rose from every block, where the boundaries of terror no longer divided the people.